I work as a CEO for a startup store.
Load Impact does performance testing. It's in the developer tools market.
All right, so who are you, Anna?
Yeah, that's that's a big question. Who am I? I'm a happy person in general, and I think I was just thinking about that when I got in here, that when we started Tasteline, for instance, there weren't a lot of scenes like this of startups, but now I'm more and more labeled an entrepreneur. So today I'm a happy entrepreneur, but it varies. So happy today, and another day it might be a little bit more tough.
Understandable.
Yeah.
That's what life is like. Where did it all start? Where did you grow up? What did your parents do?
My father's in the pharmaceutical industry, and my mother was within clothes, fashion, and brought up here in Stockholm. I had a very happy upbringing. When I was 10, we moved to Japan. We were only supposed to be there for a year. We ended up staying for 6, and then I actually went back for another 2 years. So Japan shaped a lot of my background. And as a young person, I was at an international school and probably wasn't so integrated into the Japanese system as I was when I went there on my own. And when I went there on my own, I realized this is not a place where I'm going to stay because I'm blonde, I'm big, I'm tall, and I'm Swedish, and I'm a woman. And it was a bit more difficult to make a career move in Japan, and especially when it had to do with entrepreneurship. So several years there formed a lot of how I think, and but I'm glad that I went back to Sweden with that.
In what way did it shape you? What's the big differences?
How many of you have been to Japan? Yeah, it's such a fascinating country, because every day, however long I was there for, I always went out and found that there's something I don't understand about the culture, or there's something that is new to me. And for instance, the spaces, everything is pretty crammed, so they always need to think very creatively. I don't know if that's why I feel that I've gained a lot from that, but you need to think out of the box, and it really works well there, because especially when you're big, you walk into this like little apartment that I was in, and the whole bathroom was like 1 square meter and had everything, and I'm like, my God, no wonder they were the first people to make compact washing detergents and things, because there's no space. So whenever you see something there, you think, oh my God, I wonder why they're doing that. And I wonder why we're not doing that. You know, sitting on the crammed subway, they have an amazing way to fold their newspapers, because you can't sit like this. Now we don't do it at all. I mean, everyone's in their smartphone, but they were very early with their smartphones too. So I'm fascinated by it. I love it. I love the country. I wish I could go there more often.
So talking about your family again, you have 3 brothers. How has that shaped you?
I don't know how that's shaped me. They're wonderful, all 3 of them, and they're all younger brothers. So I've always been the biggest sister, and one of them is close to me in age. The other 2 are half brothers, and they're young, so they always make me feel a little bit younger, which is good, because they're 16 and 14. So I must be like 29, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So no, that's I don't know. They're great friends.
What if you would have sisters too? How would it it have been different?
I don't know.
You don't
Never
know?
had them.
Of course not. Do you think your parents suspected when you were a kid that you would become an entrepreneur, and why? Why would they suspect that, if they did?
I don't know, but I think a lot of kids, I mean, there were lots of us, both girls and boys at that time, who did what would be probably seen as entrepreneurial things. We made our little, the chocolate cookies or whatever, and we meant to sell them, and we, if there was a soccer game close to my house, we had a soccer pitch there, I'd like run out and sell candy, and I think at that stage nothing was impossible.
What about transporting garbage by boat?
Yeah. Well, on our summer holidays, we'd go by boat, and there were lots of families with different boats. And at one occasion, there was an island where they took all the garbage and where you could put your garbage. And a friend of mine and I, we were in different boats, and we had a little boat that we could row with, a rowing boat. And we decided to bring our parents' garbage, all of our garbage, to the other island. And then when we're in the boat, we're like, why don't we bring all the boats of garbage and ask them if they can pay for it? And so we went around with all, do you have any garbage? And they're like, oh my God, thank you. Here's 5 crowns or 1 crown or whatever it was. It wasn't a lot of money, but it went to candy, everything. so that was, it was maybe, they saw it then. I think my parents probably thought we were crazy, but no, it wasn't that big a deal.
Was candy, buying candy whenever you wanted to, was that the big dream?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It wasn't like I
Yeah.
didn't get candy or anything like that, but it was probably the freedom of choosing when.
Oh, I remember those days too. All right.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about your entrepreneurial journey. And we'll start with Tasteline. And I think that'll be quite a story. Tell us just briefly, for those of us who don't know, what is Tasteline?
It's today Sweden's largest recipe website, basically. So everything that you need to know about food and drink, and today you can also get the goods delivered, which was our vision in '99. Obviously, it was supposed to happen in 2000, but it didn't really. And there were lots of things that didn't happen in 2000, actually. But so the visions were really fantastic in '99, and today many of them have come true. It took a little bit longer than expected.
You mentioned before that you met one of the guys at the East Asian Association. Is that how it all started? And you?
Yeah, because that's how we got to know each other. And then we were actually in Tokyo together, because he was at a different school in Japan. And he started talking to me about the idea of Tasteline. And a friend of his, another school friend of ours, Anders Örbom, had another company called Netcard, which was basically before internet and particularly before Google. It was difficult to find where you were heading online. So he had a company where he put up little business cards of internet addresses, so www.volvo.com. Now, if you're going to find it, take the card and go to the computer and type it down. I mean, everyone's like, really? But that's how it started. Now, the window for that closed quite quickly because of several partners. But then they used the cards to put recipes on. So they put a really nice photo on the front and then the recipe on the behind, right? So not on the behind, on the back of the card. Anyway, Swinglish. I'm going to get cited on that one. Anyway, so the recipe cards were the start of this. They called them delicious cards. And talking about behinds, it was a bit of a move from delicious cards to delicious.com, because that porn was a little bit earlier online. So that domain was taken. So we had delicious.nu, and we were trying to get that. And then once we started working with it, we realized we needed a new name. And so we chose Tasteline, which I at first thought sounded like a, Silja line or Viking line, the big ferries. And I was very skeptical, but we built a lot more into Tasteline. So, yeah, but it's so it started out as a card company run by Anders and Andreas. They had clients. The whole idea was to have sponsored recipes. So Barilla was the ingredient. And obviously the move online was quite easy because we had the database of different recipes, and just like Google, we could sell AdWords, only we called them food words. So we sold pasta, or we sold different words within the recipe database.
Mm. You had no boyfriend at that time, and I introduced you by saying that you saw the company kind of as your child, and your co-founders as your family.
Yeah.
Was it like that?
Yeah, and actually, I did have a boyfriend who's now my husband. We just met,
Oh.
and poor guy, he was putting in recipes. He's studying. He
You
was
hired
studying
him?
to become. Yeah, absolutely. I hired all of his friends too. They were put in a big room and asked. They were all studying to become doctors, so it was excellent for them to have some sort of extra revenue at the time. So they were, or salary. So they were putting in all our first 200 recipes are all put in by doctors. It's amazing.
Practicing prescriptions, right?
Exactly. They're like, which prescription or yeah.
Oh, that's really funny.
Yeah.
You never got tired?
Oh,
It's like, no,
oh,
just stop doing your business.
he
Let's
is
do
the most
people stuff
wonderful. Oh my gosh. No, he's he's very supportive. I don't think I could have done half of what I've done without him. So he's very important.
instead. So what was your role in Tasteline, and why?
I was the managing director from the start, and I think Anders and Andreas never wanted that position, and they together with they just said, okay, would you like to be the managing director of this? And I was naive, and it's the best thing I've ever done, because I learned so much. Many of them the very hard way, like recruiting people who were 35, which I obviously thought was extremely old at the time, and having people around me that were, much more senior and had lots more experience than I'd had. So it was difficult at times, but luckily, and I can miss that really naive part, because there's so many things that you just think nothing's impossible. I can do this any day of the week. Be the CEO. That's fine. I'll do that, because I think I saw it still as sort of the East Asia Association. Okay, now we're working with food instead. But it was just sort of an association that went into a company.
Regarding funding, how did you get your first funding?
So we were, Anders and Andreas had actually, once they contacted me, they'd already been in touch with a big outdoor advertising company, which had bought into their delicious cards idea. And at that same time, they said, we also want to make this online. They said, well, we're not too interested in going online with anything right now, because they were obviously more stationary, traditional media, outdoor, and what they were seeing with the cards was that they could actually put the cards in stores, so that they were still traditional media, and online was sort of something else. But they did say, we'll give you a loan of 5 million Swedish crowns and 40 million Swedish crowns worth of outdoor advertising. For a lot of the company, by the way. I mean, we lost a lot of the company that way, but the attention that we got from 3 people at the office, with amazing advertising, and we were basically everywhere at that time, and people really thought that we were many people at the office, obviously, but also that we had a lot of money. So that was how it all got started.
So it was kind of like a hype. Tasteline.com was
Yes, it was, and I remember there was actually an article saying that early on that this must be a bubble. The money that Tasteline must be spending on advertising is insane. And we're like, yeah, we know.
You should know.
Yeah, so that was a good start, good way to start.
And that obviously worked.
It didn't give a lot of traffic to the website, because people were offline seeing, and online wasn't as, broadband wasn't as well developed. There were lots of difficulties, challenges still.
Right.
So, but VC venture capitalists, they were like, oh my God, this crazy company's got a lot of money for advertising. Obviously, our biggest clients were within the food industry, so they were using the same space to advertise their brands. So they obviously saw the potential in this, and so it was really good in building partners and money for the company.
Right. And what other funding did you get during the first years?
So with this loan and the outdoor advertising, we started to see if we could get more money for our international expansion, which was obviously extremely important. We were supposed to be in Austria by next year. I just remember Austria in our business plan. It's like there were obviously lots of other countries that we were supposed to be in, but Austria sort of sticks out. But so that then we needed a lot of money, obviously, and we went to I think 25 different VC companies at the time, and we met with 10 of them, and 10 of them were really, really interested. And then we signed with, at that time it was called Tasteline, for our next round. And quite early, right after that round, basically, we went to America. We went to the United States to meet with our big, the shining stars within in food online, which was Star Chefs and Food.com and all these exciting companies. And they met with us and they was like, "Oh, congratulations on getting this capital, and are you interested in buying us?" We're like, "What? We're supposed to buy you? You guys are supposed to buy us. What's going on here?" Like, "No, it's way too early. You guys are way too early," and so open about it. And they really told us straight up that this is not going to take off for another 5 years. I'm like, "What? Are you serious? We're about to go bankrupt. It's too early. The format, the banners don't work yet. There's so many. They had so many really insightful things to tell us." And at the same time, we were 25 years old and so keen to just run out and do everything. But we went back to our board of directors and said, because this is the experience we had. And obviously, just half a year later, all these liquidations in Sweden. I mean, Bo.com and Dressmart and all these companies that had these amazing stories in paper, in the paper, but really had difficulties in getting the brand out and succeeding with the capital and things like that. So that's, I think, it was an important signal for us to hold on to that money and make it last for as long as you can.
And how long did you last?
Well, forever, hopefully.
You
But
did.
I mean, it's still there. So no, it took us to break even when we started making our own money, and which
When
was
did you-
4 years later.
4 years later,
Yeah.
in 2000 and
So it was in 2003
okay,
when we
cool.
first,
And then you were acquired in 2005, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get back to that. MedUniverse. What is it?
It is a network for doctors. The idea was to use everything that we'd learned from Tasteline, i.e. sharing of recipes, but bring it to a different target group where they could share something else, but use the digital platform to really be as effective as possible in communicating. And I'm, like I said, now married to a doctor, and I interviewed him. We had 1,000 ideas. My co-founder and I, she was the CEO of Tasteline at the time, and I asked, "What do you want to do?" And she's like, let's do anything. We were thinking about delivering Asian food to home to people, and all these funny ideas. And then we started looking at what's there to do for different target groups other than foodies. And then being married to a doctor, I looked at him and I asked him, "What do you do online and how does it work? And would you like to have this sharing platform?" And I think maybe he was being nice and said, that would be great. Only thing is that it was a difficult target group, and it's taken a long time. But it's now 17,000 doctors in Sweden, and we have access to 2 million doctors in the world via a network of different doctor networks in the world. And the business idea is advertising and market research directed towards this target group of doctors, and you can bring it down to subspecialties within the different doctor target groups, so cardiologists or oncologists.
Why is this? You mentioned that it was a complicated group. Why is it a complicated group to work with?
I think after 5 years, I've realized that doctors network in a different way to say entrepreneurs, and it's really important that they have extremely good content to network around. and we found that patients are extremely good to network around. So now we're launching a new product called Simpatico, which is simulated patient contact, where we're going to, well, simulate a patient case and have doctors interact with the patient case together. And I'm super excited about it because it's taken 5 years and it's been so bloody tough. And now I think I might be here a couple of years from now and say something completely different. But today I believe that this is where what we've found something really interesting. And we aggregate the data from the patient cases and make market research out of that. So the pharma industry is a big client.
So is it, in that sense, open innovation? You keep on building on each other's knowledge, and you help out in being creative.
Yeah, I think one of the things I realized after Tasteline, and I started MedUniverse, I didn't use anything from Tasteline, the brand or the food industry. I left the brand, and I left the target group, and I left the content. So if I would have done it again, I might have started Waistline, if you want, something for, diet or something. Not move too far away from what you were actually thinking about. And maybe I'd be back at the garbage in the rowing boat. Waistline could be both waistline or, but anyway. No, I think when we started looking at MedUniverse again, I said, okay, this is not really as profitable as we'd wish. It's not really as big as we wish. It's very local, Sweden. What is global within this? Well, patients are a global product. And this is something that we could use from doctors can interact on different patient cases together from all over the world. And the new vision is that an Indian doctor meets with a Japanese doctor and a Swedish doctor, and they get the Nobel Prize, and they say, it's all thanks to MedUniverse. But no, seriously, yeah, that's my new vision. No, but seriously, I see a lot of power in connecting doctors and giving better patient care. So I'm very, very fond of the idea, but it's extremely difficult to get doctors to network.
So we're moving from the .com industry into the .com industry. You're part of something new here.
We could both move to Gothenburg.
Yeah. I live there. I spent too many years in Gothenburg.
Yeah. We'll have like companies like Waistline, and you can bring your .coms.
We could talk forever about this. Talking about maybe impossible. I can't say.
Impossible. Yes.
Maybe impossible.
Yeah.
You thought it was maybe impossible to learn how to play poker, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was why?
Well,
tell us the story.
The thing about poker was that there were a number of entrepreneurs. We met up for dinner and we exchanged really good experiences. We had dinners together, and 8 guys, 2 girls. We met in this little room at Sturehof, and we discussed things like, so what coffee do you use at your office? How much do you pay for cleaning your office? This is when we were still, not making a lot of money. And then some of them started making a lot of money, and it was all about, what flight were you on and all this. And all of a sudden the guys were like competing with which business cards to pay the dinner. And it was right when Unibet, all these betting companies and online poker was beginning to bloom, and we decided to start playing poker. We didn't, they did. And I decided not to go because I was like, well, I can't play poker. And they were all like, neither can we, all guys, and they played anyway. And I was like, oh, why is that? And then I decided not to go, and I realized I missed out on all these extremely interesting opportunities because there was Price Runners founders, Spotify's founders, all of them were in the same room, and we were talking about these great ideas and being part of each other's ideas. And I told them, no, I'm not going to be able to come because I can't. And they said, come anyway, we need some women there. And then I realized, okay, if I start a school, a poker school, then maybe some people are going to turn up, or girls are going to come. And I called 50 girls and women. I said we were going to start this poker school called Poker Face. And do you want to join? Well, is it really a school, or do I need to know how to play poker? Because I have I don't want to be there if I need to know how to play. No, it's a school. And then they all joined, which was great because then there were 50 entrepreneur women who started to play poker, and that was the start of Poker Face. And since then, we've grown. We're about 100 women now, but it's a female network, but we're always challenged by our counterparts with both men and other women, and So it's really, really good. A good way to both share entrepreneurship stories. Poker's amazing in the way it's really a challenge, and you want to win. And if you play well, if you play well, then you get to stay around the table for a while to actually talk to people for a long time. So you get lots of business ideas and new contacts. So it's been good.
What do you do if you don't do well? Don't you go?
Then
have
you
some beer,
start
then
to mingle. Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So where do the cool companies spin out of? Is it from the mingle or is it from the poker being played?
Good question. I think it's really interesting to follow the people who play poker, because you can tell that someone who plays very aggressive, you're like, okay, my goodness, who's this person? You get a lot of respect for that person. But if you get a person next to you who just is on every game, then you're like, wait a minute. You judge the people who are at the poker table. So if you find someone that you're impressed by at the poker table, then you'd probably like to do business with them. So it's a way of getting to know people.
Like a personality test.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
Personality test.
Yeah.
And the better you get, the weirder your personality, because yeah.
Just a fun little story about this network of yours, Pokerface. You found some talents, right? Within poker?
Yeah. Amazing story. This woman who joined our network literally 9 months ago, she won 300,000 Swedish crowns last week or 2 weeks ago in Johannesburg, World Championship Poker Tournament, whatever it was. And she has combined her little business of selling clothes with poker full time. So she's like a poker star. She won like the Swedish championships, and now she's like traveling all over the world playing poker. So yeah, she's a talented poker player now. And we won't want her to play with us anymore.
I just have a business idea for you. I mean, you create a network and you use poker kind of like as a personality test, but you branded it as a poker school. Why don't you create a poker school?
Poker school, yeah. That's
and you take
and then
part
just
of the people brands, right? Just like you invest in new startups.
Perfect. That's our next business idea.
Okay, cool. So let's leave the exciting world of poker
and go to the despair.
Despair. Let's start off with talking about the worst day of your life.
The worst day of my life. Entrepreneurship is tough. And I try to tell everyone who wants to get in this, maybe not that it's going to take 5 years, but that there are going to be ups and downs. And are you ready to tackle not having a salary? For how long can you live without a salary? I mean, it's an important question. And who's going? What does your life look like, and how is it to combine it with entrepreneurship? Because I think it's really important to make, I usually call it a lifestyle career. What's your current lifestyle? Does it include a husband and 2 children? Then maybe you have some other people around you that you need to sort of consider. If you're 25 and single, maybe not. You can work 24/7. There are lots of different aspects. I think one of the toughest days in my life was when I'd invested 4 years in Tasteline. All this energy, we'd built up a brand that was extremely strong. We had the traffic. We didn't have a lot of clients because they were, like I was saying earlier, a little bit hesitant. And I was invited just this time of year to a lunch with my chairman, and he and I were going to just have a quick sushi. And I said, well, I want to talk to you about Tasteline. We had 1 million Swedish crowns left in the bank. Which was going to last us a couple of months, absolutely, but it was still, I didn't see that we were going to survive. So I just told him straight up. I said, I don't think we're going to make it. We're gonna fail, and we need to liquidate the company. He's like, and he just looked at me and he said, okay, we'll do that. And so I'll send out an email tomorrow that we're going to liquidate Tasteline, and that was the end of that. And I left that lunch just feeling like, I can't believe I just said that with that reaction, and that after all these years, it turned out to be nothing. It was just, that was the end of it. And so I went back home, and for 4 years, I'd literally been saying, we're close now. It's really close. We're about to be profitable now. And every time it was obviously a little bit further away. And so I remember waking up the next day and saying, okay, this does not feel right. Because I was supposed to go to the office, tell the 7 people that I worked with that, sorry, we can't continue. We've decided to liquidate the company. And I remember waking up and I said, I can't do it. I really felt like this is going to be so sad. And I don't think the people that I was working with, they would have never believed me. They'd be like, what? But you've been saying we're so close now. And so I just said, I called Rickard up and I said, Rickard, I need to talk to you again, the board of the chairman of the board. Could I spend that last 1 million Swedish crowns because we're so close now? And he's like, same reaction. Absolutely, no problem. That 1 million is not worth anything anyway. Don't worry about it. And we took the money and we were profitable after Christmas that next year. So that was the first time it was that close. And obviously I've heard this story from other entrepreneurs. When you're so low on self-esteem and you're literally just on the floor, not breathing, that's when you're really close. And if you're not, then it's not. But I mean, it was in our time. It was at that time. It was what was left, and it worked.
And in these times of despair, who supports you? I'm also your husband is always very supportive.
He was very supportive.
Is that it?
I think at that time, difficult. And I was talking to you about it yesterday. I almost felt like I needed to cry because it brought up some really bad memories. But I think at that time, I remember there was a person. I was actually seeing a coach. I didn't tell you that yesterday. I'd been recommended by other entrepreneur to see a woman who was great in these types of situations. And she was really, really strong. She helped me a lot. She helped me. I point here because I had her on my shoulder, literally when I went. Not literally. When I walked out of the meeting, she was not on my shoulder. But I had her words with me. She was saying, when you get these types of questions, you need to reply in this way. When you get this type of situation, you should react this way. Because I wasn't sure of how I should react, or I didn't want to start crying, or I didn't just be calm. And she was 70 or something like that. And I was like, oh my God, how is she going to help me? And then I'm like, oh my God, she's amazing. She'd been through everything. And she was the best.
How did you find her?
This entrepreneur friend of mine who said, this is a woman you should meet. And who'd been through some tough times himself. And said, I really trusted him too. And he said, this is someone that I think you'll get a lot out of. And she was very helpful in the more business to business, but on a private setting, it was definitely my husband. He was very supportive, and in a way that's sort of not like, oh, it's going to be okay. It's more like, don't worry about it. We're here. Your family's here. I'm here. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, no.
But it felt like it at some point. It was just like, oh, this is a nightmare.
Because now you're not saying that usually you founded the company with 2 other people, right?
Yeah.
And weren't they supportive, or what happened?
We went through some really tough times.
You were family.
Yeah, absolutely. And we knew so much about each other, and we had some really tough decisions because I had to tell them to leave the company, or not that you're fired or anything like that, but we couldn't support the 2 other founders' salaries. That was a tough call. That was probably one of the worst days too. There were many terrible days, and I had to tell them, we can't support this anymore. Well, what are we going to do? What should we do? Well, we have some other ideas within the company, and we'll ask the board if we can get funding for them. But we couldn't ask the board for funding. It was like not even on the topic list. I mean, never. So that was a really tough time, and I think they were a bit disappointed with me that, and I was a little bit disappointed with them for not understanding. So that was a bit of a friction, a time of friction between us entrepreneurs too. And
what did they do when
we
they couldn't stay in the company?
we basically started a new company built on the Tasteline idea, but within market research. So it's actually funny because there's a lot of parallels to what we're doing within MedUniverse right now. But we started a market research company. But basically, they started it, and they asked me to join them and be partly a third-part owner. And I decided to not join them because I wanted to save or really work with Tasteline. And I was like, we're so close now, and I'm going to sell the company. And they're like, are you really going to sell the company? You think anybody wants to buy it? I'm like, yes, I believe in this. And so there was a lot of friction, both in the fact that, okay, they were starting it without me, and I was there on my own. So that was difficult. And it was a mutual friend of ours who got us back on track again. So we're not there anymore, which I'm forever grateful that guy, because he made a big difference.
Definitely. Good story. If you'd get a chance to restart your life, what would you have done differently?
I don't know. It's just so I can't even. I mean, it's not like I'm going to start all over, but I don't think I would have done much differently, because it's been a great road to travel. Really, it really has. I think if I would have had that coach a little bit earlier, but I don't know if it would have worked. But just to give me a little bit of I didn't have to run into every wall. No. So that maybe would have helped a little bit. I think the scene that you guys are providing here with the ability to share experiences between entrepreneurs, that would have been very helpful. Because I think if you can share both the good stories, because I meet a lot of young entrepreneurs and old entrepreneurs for that matter, who say, everything is great. It's so fantastic. We're doing really well. We've doubled our sales from 1 crown to 2. And I just, this like facade of everything is so great is, I want to write that book, where someone's holding their finger crossed behind their backs, like, it's great. And just to get the depth of what entrepreneurship really is, because it's not all, it's so good. But a part of it needs to be that. I usually tell people that I'm like this, GB Glassgubbe, the ice cream man, gets a big fat hit, and it's just like, want some ice cream? I'm right back. And just this like, you need to be there on a sales note. You need to always be very convinced that this is what's right. But behind the scenes, it's a bit of a mess. And I think it's important to share that with people who are in the similar position, so that it's not always, it's so easy to start a company. It's not. It's very difficult. And there's so many people that don't make it. And it was so close that Tasteline didn't make it. I was literally, you heard the story. It was just one decision that we changed last minute.
And with that being said, thank you so much, Anna.
Thank you.
For joining us here on stage, telling your story. I hope you had a good time.
Yeah, I did. Really good to be here. Really good to be here.
Let's give her a big round of applause.
Thank you.
I think data is fun. That's why.
We build companies, usually based on research or some kind of technological innovations. And what we do is that we build companies based on those innovations.